You think you found them. The truth is closer to the opposite, and once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. A year ago, a bird landed in your yard for the first time. You probably didn't notice the exact day. You definitely didn't know what you were starting. Most people assume a backyard bird is just passing through a visitor, here today, gone tomorrow, indistinguishable from the next one. That assumption is wrong, and it's wrong in a way that changes what your yard actually is. Because if the same bird has been coming back to you every day for a year, that bird has not simply been eating your seed. It has been studying you. It has built a working model of your face, your voice, your patterns, your risk level, and your worth, and by now, that model is more complete than you might build of a coworker you saw every day for the same amount of time. There are 6 things that bird now knows about you. The last one is the one that will stay with you. Subscribe now, because what you're about to learn will change the way you walk outside every single morning. Most people don't know that individual facial recognition in backyard birds isn't a slow process. It's fast, and it's specific. Researchers at the University of Vienna working with carrion crows and separate teams at the University of Washington working with American crows found that wild birds can learn to distinguish one human face from another within a matter of encounters, not years, not even weeks. In Dr. John Marsloff's mask experiments, crows that were trapped by researchers wearing a specific mask learned to recognize and scold that exact mask on sight, while ignoring researchers wearing a neutral mask standing right next to them. The birds weren't responding to a human. They were responding to that human. This generalizes beyond crows. Chickadees, titmice, and cardinals, the regulars at your feeder, show the same core capacity for fine-grained individual recognition, because the underlying visual processing isn't crow-specific. It's a bird brain trait, refined differently by species. So if the same bird has been at your yard daily for a year, the facial recognition phase ended a long time ago. That happened in the first week. What's been happening every day since is something else refinement. The bird isn't still figuring out who you are. It already knows. It's been updating the file. And the file doesn't just contain your face, it contains your walk. Here's something nobody tells you. Birds don't wait for you to get close enough to see your face before they decide how to react. By the time you're at typical feeder distance, the decision is already made, which means the recognition is happening earlier, off something else. That something else is the way you move. Researchers studying corvid and songbird vigilance behavior have repeatedly found that birds calibrate their flight initiation distance the exact point at which they decide to flee, based on the approaching individual's specific movement pattern, not just generic human approaching signals. A familiar, low-threat walk lets them stay put. An unfamiliar gait, even at the same distance, triggers earlier flight. This is why the mail carrier doesn't get the same reaction you do, even at the same distance, even wearing similar colors. Your bird has built a movement signature for you specifically, your pace, your posture, the particular way you carry a refill bag of seed versus the particular way a stranger carries nothing at all. A year of daily visits is, from the bird's side, a year of gait data. It knows your walk the way you'd know a friend's footsteps on the stairs before you saw them. That's not a metaphor. That's the actual mechanism. Most people imagine a bird's relationship to humans as a single dial, comfortable, or scared. It isn't. It's a ranking system, and you have a specific position on it. Behavioral ecologists studying urban and suburban bird populations describe this as a threat hierarchy. Birds don't just learn safe or unsafe, they build a graded scale, with specific humans, specific vehicles, specific predators, and specific times of day all slotted into relative positions. The neighbor's outdoor cat sits near the top. A hawk silhouette sits at the very top. You, if you've been consistent for a year, sits somewhere very close to the bottom, not zero, because true zero would be evolutionarily reckless, but close enough that your presence barely registers as a behavioral event anymore. This is why a bird that explodes off the feeder when a stranger steps into the yard will barely lift its head when you do the same thing. It isn't being friendlier with you. It's running a calculation, and the calculation has a year of consistent inputs all pointing the same direction. Low risk, repeat presence, no history of harm. You didn't earn trust the way a person earns trust, with a conversation or a gesture. You earned it the way a system earns confidence through volume of consistent, harmless data. 360 some low-risk encounters in a row is not a feeling to a bird. It's evidence. Here's the part that tends to unsettle people a little. The relationship runs both directions, and the bird is arguably better at its half. Studies on feeder visitation patterns show that birds with a reliable daily food source develop sharp temporal expectations arriving in tight windows around when food typically appears, and in some documented cases, arriving early, as though anticipating, rather than simply discovering. This isn't blind instinct. It's learned timing, built from repetition. The same general mechanism by which a dog learns when you usually get home. If your routine has been consistent for a year, coffee at 7, feeder filled shortly after, your bird very likely has an internal clock keyed to your habits more precisely than you have one keyed to its. You might describe it as the cardinal that's usually around in the morning. The cardinal could describe it, if it had language, as a far more specific window than that. This is worth sitting with for a second. You have spent a year thinking of the bird as a feature of your yard, a nice thing that happens to be there when you look. The bird has spent that same year tracking you, on a schedule, as a reliable resource with a predictable pattern. The attention has not been one-directional. It's been mutual, and arguably more rigorous on the bird's side. Most people assume that if they stop showing up a vacation, a sick week, a schedule change, the bird simply moves on without a second thought, the way you might forget a gas station you stopped using. The research suggests something closer to disruption. When a reliable feeding source becomes inconsistent or disappears, studies of feeder-dependent birds document a measurable change in behavior. Increased investigative visits to the empty or altered site, broader foraging movements, and in some cases a return to checking the original location well after it stopped producing food behavior consistent with the bird treating the change as a problem. To solve, not a fact to simply accept. That means somewhere in the last year, if you've ever missed a few days, your bird almost certainly noticed before you got back. Not in a way it could tell you about, but in the way an animal that has built a year of expectation around a specific, reliable human responds when that expectation breaks. It checks. It comes back anyway. It looks for you in the place you're supposed to be. You were not the only one keeping track of the relationship. Here is the thing underneath all 5 of the others, the one most people never let themselves consider all the way through. A bird that has spent a year learning your face, your gait, your schedule, your absence, and your place on its threat scale has not been doing any of that casually. Each of those is a cognitively expensive task recognition, ranking, prediction, memory built and maintained by a brain that has no reason to spend resources on anything that doesn't matter to its survival. Birds do not memorize the irrelevant. They cannot afford to. Every fact they hold about you, they hold because holding it helped them live. That reframes the relationship entirely. You have probably thought of the bird this whole time as something you noticed, a small good thing in a busy life, a flash of red or a particular song you've come to associate with your own mornings. But the bird did not notice you the way you notice scenery. It built you, piece by piece. visit by visit, into a known, trusted, tracked, anticipated part of its actual survival strategy. You are not in its yard. You are in its model of the world, occupying a permanent and specific place that very few humans and almost no strangers will ever occupy in the mind of a wild animal. You didn't just feed a bird for a year, you became, to something wild and free and entirely capable of leaving, one of the known and trusted shapes of its life. That isn't sentiment. That's what science actually shows. And it was true before you ever knew to look for it. Tell me, does your regular show up at almost the exact same time every day? I want to know how precise it actually is. And if you've ever gone away for more than a few days, tell me what happened when you got back. That story is the one I want to read most.